The rules were created to protect us and our clients. They were very simple and clear, so that even most illegal immigrants could understand them. Even workers who barely spoke English could understand the rules. The first rule is to always leave the door open or ajar when cleaning a room. The second rule is to always leave the cart with your cleaning supplies outside the room, even if it may cost you a few extra steps and a little time. So when I saw Birdie leave her cart outside one room and head into another with a client, I knew she was in for trouble of one sort or another. She winked at me and took the guy's hand. She added a little more grace to her walk, swaying her slender, almost boyish hips with an extra edge. As I walked back to my cart, I wondered if she was shaking her ass like that for his benefit, or if she was just teasing me. Perhaps this was her way of saying, "Look, Grandma, we don't get paid enough here, so I'm going to grab every extra opportunity." Birdie was about 20 years old. She started working at the hotel about a year ago. She was a thin blonde with an elf type, with a barely noticeable ass and breasts. She had a boyfriend named Ernie who adored her. She also had expensive tastes and a head full of dreams that would never come true. Birdie barely finished school. She graduated 203rd out of 204 students. She escaped last place only due to attendance. Another student in the class had the same dismal GPA as Birdie, but she was saved from last place because she actually attended classes much more often than he did. In some ways, her performance was even sadder considering she got the same grades as him, even though he showed up to school once in a blue moon and she was there every damn day. Damn, she should have been given points just for attendance. In Birdie's head, there were two best chances to become rich, or at least get what she wanted. A, the lottery, and B, sex with hotel guests for extra money. True, sex reduced the number of rooms she actually cleaned, but most days she broke even, and it was easier for her to earn money on her back. Plus, she couldn't really count on the lottery because she kept forgetting to buy tickets. However, she sat in front of the TV every evening when the winner was announced. She was very upset every time she didn't win. "Tomorrow I'll buy a ticket," she said every time. I probably should have expected this. After all, Birdie was a very stupid girl. Such things could lead to Birdie becoming a very old and very lonely woman someday. I should have known. I shook my head and wheeled my cart out in front of the room. I was going to clean myself. I was lucky this time. The guest in the room I cleaned was very neat. Oh my God, he even made his bed. I went into the bathroom and wiped down all the surfaces with antibacterial disinfectant and shook my head again. I could tell he had been here recently and taken a shower. But everything, even in the bathroom, was so neat. It was incredible. It was almost as if he was used to keeping everything clean and tidy himself. It was easy money. I stopped before leaving because something in the room seemed very familiar to me, although I could not understand what it was. Maybe it was the smell of cologne. Maybe it was just a feeling. I shook my head to clear my thoughts and turned my attention back to my work. As I walked back to my cart, I could hear Birdie and her guest making love. Birdie was just stupid. Anyone passing along the corridor could hear her moans. I was the housekeeping supervisor, so she didn't have much to worry about with me. But the hotel manager or someone else might have walked down that hallway. Then it started to seep into my consciousness. I think I was so caught up in my thoughts that it didn't register right away. Birdie's moans and purrs grew into loud screams. The words, "No, please don't," made me take action. Birdie was, of course, stupid. No one dares harm my staff if I can stop it, no matter what they did. I used my master key and entered the room. She tried to push him away. "I already said, I don't do that," she said. He stumbled back and hit her hard in the face. Birdie slid down the wall to the floor and began to cry. "Get away from her!" I shouted loudly at the man. He turned to look at me. "You already got what you wanted from her," I said. "She said I could have whatever I wanted," he replied. His voice was so emotionless that it scared me. He tossed a few bills towards Birdie and turned to me. "If I had seen you first, this little slut wouldn't be here now," he said, smiling at me. "You're more my type. You're older, which means you have more experience." As he walked towards me, I began to retreat into the corridor. I hoped that being in the public eye would make him more reserved. "You are also better built than her," he continued. "I like you a lot better." "I'm not doing this," I said, retreating even faster. "For me, you will be," he said. "Remember, part of your job is to satisfy your guests." "I already said I'm not doing this," I said, even louder. I stepped back into the corridor and towards the wall. "Well then, screw you," he said. His face turned into a mask of hatred and his fist rose. It was bent back and ready to strike. I must have blinked or flinched, expecting a blow that never came. He was grabbed from behind by someone who knocked him off balance and threw him to the floor with the same hand he was about to hit me with. "She said no," said the man standing over him, as if waiting for an opportunity or a reason to continue their confrontation. I raised my head and saw my savior, and everything around me froze. My head exploded with recognition. I lowered my head, hoping he wouldn't see me. I was saved by Birdie, who ran out of the room. She grabbed my hand and pulled me out of there, while our hero was still standing over the man. "I'll report you to security," Birdie said. Her face is already swollen. "I don't think so," the man laughed, "because then you will have to tell them why you were in my room. As I see it, I will be kicked out of this cheap hotel, and in less than an hour, I will be in a better hotel with beautiful maids. But you will lose your job. So you don't say a word, and we both know it. Neither does your buxom friend. She already tried to save you. She doesn't want you to quit either." He started laughing. It was a very sick laugh. It was the kind of laugh that only a person who doesn't care about others can make. Such a person sees most people as inferior to himself and existing only for his benefit. It was as if in his own mind, he was some kind of twisted chosen one. In his sick little fantasy world, we all existed solely for his pleasure. The situation was extremely ironic because I had been in a similar situation before. In fact, this is the reason why I am here now and doing what I do. The bastard laughed at us, but only for a moment, because after the first, "ha-ha," my would-be savior hit him in the side so hard that I was sure I heard a rib crack. The bastard went quiet very quickly after that. "Thank you, mister," Birdie said over her shoulder as she dragged us out of there and onto the elevator. "We could come back for our carts later. I'd already finished cleaning the room I was doing anyway." "What will I do, Blanche?" asked Birdie, crying. "What will I tell Ernie?" "What are you going to tell Ernie about?" I asked. "What are you going to tell Ernie about the bruises on your face? Or maybe you meant that you would tell Ernie about the bites on your neck?" I know I was tough on her, but I was angry. She almost got herself into a very bad situation and almost put me in the same situation. I knew it would catch up with her sooner or later, and boy, did it happen today. But suddenly, in a moment of clarity, I thought about the victim of all this bullshit. Maybe my savior made me think about it. I did the most disgusting thing I've ever done. Well, the second most disgusting thing anyway. I looked deeply into Birdie's stupid, trusting cow eyes and lied to her. "Don't worry, Birdie," I said, hiding my anger. "I'll fix everything." "How?" she asked, holding back tears and snot. "I really love him, Blanche. I just fell into it all." "I know, honey," I said, lying again. In the back of my mind, I was screaming at her. "Nobody gets hit by accident, you stupid bitch. We always have a choice, and you made the wrong one." "I'll fix everything," I lied. "Okay," she said. She tried to wipe her face. It hurt. "Remember last year when you got your hand caught in a drawer and couldn't move your fingers for a week?" I asked. She nodded stupidly. "We'll do the same," I lied. "We'll just have to figure out another way for you to hurt your face. And of course, you'll have to avoid sex with Ernie until the bite marks and swelling go away. But damn, this man loves you so much, he's just being stupid in front of you. He will probably spend the next few days looking after you, just like last time." "As I deserve," she smiled. More than anything, I think it was that smile on her stupid cow face that made me change my mind. She went from wounded girl in love to devious bitch in an instant. I knew what I needed to do. I smiled at Birdie and led her down the hallway as we exited the elevator. We headed straight to the hotel service area. I had a small office there and I sat her down. I grabbed my phone from the table and handed it to her. "Bert," I said, "call Ernie." She dialed his number and handed me the phone. I smiled at her, hearing the ringing in the background. I knew it would be hard for Ernie. He was a good guy. He worked long hours and also took night classes to earn more money for both of them. On days when he didn't have classes, he worked double shifts and still found time to study. I helped him several times with difficult subjects. He was always so grateful and so polite. He didn't deserve this, just like Dan didn't deserve it. 8 years ago, everything came back so vividly in my memory, as if I hadn't spent the last 8 damn years wishing I could turn back time. About half an hour later, Ernie ran into my office. Several other maids and cleaning ladies were outside, so I closed the door when he entered. I left Bertie alone for a while I spoke to the manager. Some girls have already heard rumors about what happened. There were no secrets in the hotel. Ernie looked worried and very upset. I could tell that, as usual, he only cared about Bertie's well-being. "Bert, are you okay, honey?" he asked. Bertie nodded bravely. I couldn't tell if the tears in the corners of her eyes were real or not, but Ernie readily absorbed her game. He turned to me, hoping that I could tell him what happened and explain everything. "Ernie, she'll be fine," I said. "You know Bert, she always lands on her back." Ernie looked at me and smiled. "You mean on your feet?" he said. "No," I said, smiling back. "She always lands on her back." "Ernie, it wasn't an accident. Bertie was having sex with one of the guests for money. She's been doing it for a long time. You're there working twice as hard and trying to learn while Bert is entertaining the guys for a few extra dollars to buy herself a better cell phone or green shoes she saw in a magazine." Bertie's jaw dropped in surprise, and I smiled at her. "Anyway, Ernie," I continued, "the guy she picked today turned out to be a real bastard. I heard her screams and walked into the room just in time to see him punch her in the face." "It's a joke!" Bertie shouted, trying to smile and look at me at the same time. Bertie sat there, twitching nervously. "It's a joke," I said, lifting Bertie's skirt. Ernie's eyes widened and his lips pursed in anger. Ernie crossed the room and pulled open the top of her uniform. He stood there, looking at her for a long time, still holding the top of her uniform. Gradually, the anger in his eyes faded and turned into pain. With a sound like a groan of agony from the deepest depths of the darkest corner of hell, he asked, "Why?" Bertie looked at him and then lowered her eyes to the floor. Cows have very thick skins and thick skulls. What I did was like hitting her over the head with a baseball bat. It finally dawned on her, and she felt a little of her pain and his. She couldn't even look him in the eyes. She was truly ashamed of herself. "Oh God," she said. They looked at each other for a long time without saying a word. "Check the laundry when you get home," he said. She looked at him curiously. "Today is not laundry day," she said. Damn, I have to give the girl some credit. She's a cow, through and through. "I'll put all your clothes and the rest of your stuff in the laundry room," he said. "That way, you won't have to go through the hassle of going up to the apartment to get them. If I left it in front of the building or in the hallway, someone might steal it. I'd get it soon, if I were you." Ernie then turned and walked away. He quickly collected his thoughts. He did it so quickly that I almost didn't notice the tears forming in his eyes. Almost. Ernie slammed the door so hard on his way out that my ancient frosted glass windowsill cracked. That's why I can't have good things, I thought again. Bertie just sat there, looking at me stupidly. It was like she was expecting me to bend over and pull a second attempt out of my ass. "Why?" she asked. "Blanche, why did you do that?" She looked at me with her big cow eyes and reminded me of what I said. "You said you would work it out," she cried. Her emotions finally began to break through her shock. She finally realized that she was losing a good man who loved her dearly. She was looking for someone to blame, and it looked like it had to be me. I smiled, remembering this. She was at the first stage. "I got everything sorted," I grinned. "I got everything set up for Ernie. He's a really good guy, Bert. He works hard, and he'll be successful eventually. It might take a while, but I think he'll be successful. But he doesn't need to be associated with a low-life maid who is too stupid to force her clients to use condoms. In the short term, he will be hurt, but in the long term, he will be better. I smiled. I was really proud of myself. But what about me? She sobbed. Don't worry, I said. I took care of you too. She turned her cow eyes back to me. I swear she looked at me like she was expecting some magic pill that would fix everything. God, how I hate cows. How? She asked. You're fired, I said, as if that explained everything. What? She asked, stretching the limits of her vocabulary. We pay you to clean the rooms, I said. By firing you, I'm freeing you up to go and have sex for riches. You no longer have to worry about lugging around a cleaning cart. And even better, you no longer have to worry about Ernie finding out. This course will make you rich in just a few weeks. I have to admit, she seemed to really think about it before saying, What? I took her hand and led her to the door. Tomorrow morning, you can come get your check, I said. She simply walked out the door, not knowing where she was going or even why. I'm sure that when she woke up this morning, she never expected to find herself homeless, abandoned, and without a job. I'm even more sure that she never expected to have a big purple bruise on her face and do the walk of shame down the hallway and out of the hotel while all her former coworkers laugh at her. I was just about to calm down to think about something I never expected to encounter when there was a knock on my door. Before I could even respond, Dulce Martinez, one of the best cleaners on my staff and the closest thing I had to a best friend, burst in and closed the door behind her. Oh God, how are you feeling? What are you going to do? Are you okay? What do you want me to do? How did you handle it? She asked all this in one breath. I already fired her, I said. Not about her, fool, she said. I'm worried about you. You know I understand, right? Did you understand what? I asked. I thought everyone knew she had sex with guests. Not about her, you fool, she said again. Something told me that I wouldn't be able to get rid of this so easily. I looked into her eyes and saw only care and intelligence there. For the last 2 days, all the girls have been talking about Mr. Charming from room 206, she said. He drives that black Mustang that is always parked very close to his room window. Claudine came into his room the other day unannounced to try to see him naked. She yelled service and just walked into the room. He had all his clothes on, and he was sitting on the windowsill looking at the car. She hinted that if he was interested in something, she might be available. Dulce stopped talking and smiled at me to let me know that she noticed my interest. Not that it matters to you, but he told her, thank you, but he's not interested. He also told her that it's been about 8 years since he even thought about it. Claudine still wants to marry him. When she told me, it made my alarm bells ring. Alarm bells are always ringing for you, I said. I have to admit, she said. When I first saw him, I thought he might be perfect for you. He's about your age, he's handsome, he's polite, and he keeps his room very neat. Then I found out the rest, so now it's your turn to tell me. Tell you about what? I asked. Blanche, she said. You and he have the same last name. You're from the same city. And all the girls told me that you almost fainted when you raised your head and saw him when he saved you from almost getting hit by that slut's client. He's your ex-husband and you still love him, don't you? She asked. As she looked at me, I did what I swore I would never do again. I swore I was done crying over what was lost. I swore on my holy oath that I would put the past behind me and never cry over Denton DeWitt again. And as tears rolled freely down my cheeks, I broke that promise again. Dulce immediately hugged me, comforting me with her small arms and rubbing my back. She didn't say a word. She knew what to do. She just held my hand and touched me until I came to my senses. Dulce is the epitome of a best friend. She's the kind of person who can just sit with you for an hour and you both won't say a word. But you'll walk away feeling like it was the best conversation you've ever had. Come on, honey, she said. You can tell me about it over dinner, I'll treat you. It was unexpected. This was important to her. Dulce and her husband, Robert, had 4 children. They both worked, but they still saved every cent, a lot. When we came out the back door, we had to walk past. It was weird, like when you have to go to class with your boyfriend and his new crush. You can't help but evaluate her and try to understand what she has, why he loves her so much, when he no longer loves you. Dulcie noticed the way I was looking at it and gave me that look. "What?" I asked. "It's not him," she said. "It's just his damn car. It's not like it's a kid and he got it from a court order." Seeing my reaction, it was now her turn to ask. "What?" she asked. "Dan loves Mustangs," I told her. "He didn't have this car when we broke up, so it's like testing his new love." "Two things," she said quickly. "First of all, it's a small-ass car with a big engine that makes a lot of noise. The gas mileage is terrible. These cars are made for two purposes. One is to drive fast and show off to other guys. Two is to seduce women. It looks like you don't want other guys since no one has been with you since that guy dumped you. Second, he's probably sitting staring at that car from the windowsill right now." I remembered what she said about Claudine, so I started to walk away. "Wait," she suddenly said. "Does he really love this car?" "He really loves all Mustangs and everything about them," I said. Dulce's car was a nightmare. I was sure that it did not meet road standards. The car had no airbags, the brakes squeaked like hinges on the gates of hell, and the back seat was not attached. To prevent the police from stopping us, the car had seat belts, but they simply wrapped around the seat, creating the illusion that you were wearing one. Only one headlight worked, the brake lights were on all the time, even when the brakes weren't applied, and the top speed was a breathtaking 41 mph. Of course, reaching that speed took a minute and a half, and the car shook like a dog after a swim as soon as the speed exceeded 35 mph. We even tried to drive this car onto the highway once. With the frame of the car screaming and groaning and all that shaking, I expected Scotty from Star Trek to jump out of the back seat and start screaming, "She's not going to make it, sir. The warp engines are going to explode, and the dilithium crystals are going to be damaged. Then we will really be in chocolate." Luckily, the pizzeria that Dulce loved was only 3 blocks away, and the speed limit the whole way was 30 miles an hour. I kept an eye on the speedometer anyway, because Dulce had a heavy foot and would have enjoyed trying to get to 35 just to say she did it. "Okay," she said, after we sat down and before our pizza arrived. "Tell everything. Unload this sad story of lost love." She didn't even realize that this was exactly what she was. "How did he screw up? And what does it take for you to take him back? You also need to remember that your calling in life is to clean up other people's shit for just over minimum wage, while the man of your dreams drives a $40,000 car. So think about forgiveness." I nodded. "There's also the fact that you'll be 40 next year and your biological clock is ticking so loudly I can hear it," she said. I nodded again. "Can I just tell you the story?" I asked. She smiled and nodded. "Before I came here, I was married," I began. "I was a legal secretary. I was a lawyer's secretary at a big law firm, and when he retired, his son took over. His son was only a few years older than me, so I thought that was great. My husband, Denton, worked as an engineer at one of the factories near our area. Back then, young engineers didn't make much money in the first few years after college, so we actually made about the same. I loved Denton like there was no tomorrow, and I was sure he felt the same about me. Everything was going great. We had the whole plan. We both worked for a few years until Denton started making serious money. We figured that by the time I turned 32, I'd be able to stop working and start having kids. We both wanted a house full of children. Things got interesting at work. My new boss, Mr. Bryant Jr., was nothing like his father. The father was very polite and very reserved. It was sweet, like a long day. The younger version was less official. When he won a case, it was like a victory for all of us. Before I knew it, we started going out for drinks to celebrate business wins. Then we just started going out for drinks sometimes, and before I knew it, one day I drank too much and ended up in bed with him. Denton always stayed late at the plant, and Mr. Bryant impressed upon me that Denton would never know, and that I needed to relax a little every now and then. He also started giving me bonuses every time we slept together. This went on for several months until I developed a pregnancy scare. I was so afraid of losing my husband that I didn't know what to do. It turned out I had a cyst in my reproductive system and needed surgery. Denton was with me the whole time, and I was so ashamed. However, he somehow found out how I discovered the problem with this pregnancy story, and everything came out. We had a fight. He probably wanted me. I had to stop for a while because by that point I was already crying. Denton left the hospital, and I didn't see him again until I returned home a few days later. I stayed in the hospital a few days longer than necessary to give him time to cool down. Mr. Bryant told me how to handle it. He told me to come from a position of strength. He said Denton loved me. He said Denton needed me as much as I needed him. He said if I showed any sign of weakness, I would lose Denton. I was a fool. Denton didn't try to fight me, and he really loved me. After everything, I talked to several of our friends. They were convinced that all Denton ever wanted from me was to talk and maybe get an apology and a promise that I would leave Bryant's job. Maybe it was what Mr. Bryant said, or maybe it was my guilt, but I did the stupidest thing in my life. I had an argument with Denton. I told him terrible things. I accused him of spending time at the factory with another woman. I told him I was looking for someone else because he hasn't been coping lately. Before I finished speaking, he was out the door. When he left, I swore to him that I didn't care whether he left or not. But then I lost everything. I sank to the floor in our living room and began to cry bitterly. When I came to work the next day, Mr. Bryant said I looked terrible and should take the day off. I told him I did what he asked, and it didn't work. He told me that I was better off as a divorcee because women like me should be free to flirt. I told him that I would take his advice and go home. He got angry at me and told me that despite my family problems, I needed to be ready to work the next day. He made it sound like my job was on the line. I began to realize what a fool I was. I tried talking to some of my friends, and they all agreed that I was stupid. One of my colleagues even told me that I wasn't the first married woman Bryant had an affair with, and I probably wouldn't be the last. Then I started doing what women do, and men hate us so much for it. I started being sneaky. We always assume that we are much smarter than men, when in fact women are simply more resourceful. A man will come straight to you when there's a problem between you. Women always tend to approach problems indirectly or sneak up and strike. I went to the doctor and told him that I had pain in the area where I had the surgery. He admitted me back to the hospital for a series of tests. Since I was still insured through Denton, I was confident that they would notify him and he would come see me. I needed to do something because he refused to take my calls both at work and on his cell phone. Well, my plan worked, or at least that's what I thought. Already on the first day I ended up in the hospital, they called me. Not Dan, but his secretary. She told me that he was on a business trip, but that he found out about my hospitalization. He was returning home urgently and will come to see me tomorrow. I was sure that he still loved me. He abandoned his business trip to come and see me. If this isn't love, then I don't know what love is. Denton came the next morning with a bouquet of flowers and a big smile. He ran to the edge of my bunk, and when we saw each other, we couldn't help but smile. I smiled because my plan worked. I thought he was smiling because he was glad that I was okay and ready to take me back. He told me that there was someone else who came to see me, so he would go out to wash his hands while I talked to her. When he left the room, I didn't even notice that he had put his coat back on. All I could think about was who this woman was. She entered the room and looked around to see if anyone else was there. She was young. She looked like a college student. She had that damn attitude that all college girls have today. She seemed boring to me. She walked over to the bed and she was chewing gum. She clicked it a couple of times before speaking. "Are you Blanche DeWitt?" she asked. I nodded. She handed me a stack of papers, clicked her gum again, and said, "Get well, you're going to court. Have a nice day." I worked in a law office, so I knew what happened. I couldn't believe Denton was so cunning. He played me like a cheap violin. I looked at the papers and saw that he was still playing fair. He asked for an uncontested divorce instead of treating me the way I deserved. He suggested dividing the property in half, which was more than fair, especially considering that on paper I earned more than he did last year. Our base salaries were about the same, but with my bonuses, I was ahead. I called the lawyer he hired. I asked him if there was a way to avoid divorce. I was ready to go to counseling or whatever. I just wanted to save my marriage at any cost. The lawyer laughed at me. He explained to me that Denton had hired him weeks before, and he had been there when all Denton wanted from me was an apology. I lied, conned, and tried to lie the whole way, and it was obvious that I cared more about sex with my boss than I did about my marriage. He told me Denton would have to be a fool to take me back, and hung up. My phone rang again, almost immediately. It was a man crying hysterically. At first I grinned because I thought it was Denton, but it wasn't him. Denton not only beat my plan, he upped the ante significantly. The crying person on the phone was Bryant. Denton mentioned him in our divorce. He was also given the documents at the same hour in the morning as I was, while he was having breakfast with his wife. Bryant's wife went crazy. She kicked him out of their house and also filed for divorce. She also temporarily banned him from seeing their children. But that is not all. Denton wrote a letter about the circumstances of our divorce and sent copies not only to Bryant's father, but to all the senior partners in our law firm. He also sued the firm because our affair, as he put it, occurred during and in connection with the affairs of the firm. The lawyer Denton hired was considering releasing details of the story to the press. They also sent a copy of the letter to the local bar association. They had already started an investigation, and Bryant could lose his license. There was also the possibility that the firm would be investigated. Denton really unleashed a storm. When Bryant stopped crying, he got angry at me. He told me it was all my fault. It should not have been that he lost his wife, family, marriage, license, place in the company, career, and the respect of his father and children just because he had the temerity to contact some secretary. I laughed until I cried until he hung up, still crying. I started crying myself because I then realized that Denton had actually used the nuclear option. He was very gentle with me, but with everyone else he acted decisively. Too late I realized that Bryant only saw me as something to be used for pleasure and thrown away when he got tired of it. For him, I was just one of the perks of the job, and I threw away the one person who had always cared about me the most, just so this asshole could use me. I started crying again. The phone rang amid my tears. It was a company, of course. They asked one of the senior partners to explain to me that they were quickly settling the case with Denton in court to avoid bad publicity that could embarrass the firm or their clients. Since Bryant didn't force or threaten me in any way into sleeping with him, they thought I was just as guilty as he was. So, essentially, I was fired. I didn't have to rush to work to pack my personal items. They took the liberty of packing my desk and transporting my items to my house, where they left them on the porch. My last check and the rest of my vacation and sick pay have already been deposited into my account. The next call was the one I dreaded most. My parents called to ask if it was true. Denton stopped by to tell them how sorry he was that he wouldn't see them as often anymore. He didn't tell them why. He left it to me. I didn't even tell them the truth. My father supported me throughout the entire process. I will never forget the look of pain in his eyes when we went to court to finalize our divorce. Denton didn't come because it wasn't necessary. I came hoping that he would be there and that we could talk and call off the divorce. My father came to give me moral support. He scolded Denton, calling him a coward and a scoundrel for leaving me and giving up on our marriage without even talking to me about it. At that point, the lawyers explained to him how I had deceived Denton, and he didn't come because he was too injured to even leave the house. My father turned to me with a smile on his face because before he looked me in the eyes, he was sure that they had made it all up. When he looked at me, it was as if most of his world and sanity had collapsed. He didn't say a word to me throughout the entire process or the ride home. He didn't call me or visit me for weeks after that. In fact, the next time I saw him was at Thanksgiving. My mom called to invite me a few days before. I really think they only invited me because it would be awkward not to. I could tell because they were always cheerful when talking to my sister and brother-in-law, but there were long, awkward pauses when I spoke or someone spoke to me. I never got the chance to talk to Denton again. Since there was no child support in any way, I had no contact with him. I learned that a few weeks after the divorce was final, Denton went even deeper into his work and received a big promotion and a huge increase in salary. Meanwhile, I was left without work. It seems like bad news travels at the speed of light while good news moves like a snail. It took Dan's years of hard work before his bosses realized how good he was and promoted him. But just a few days after I quit, not a single law firm in town wanted to hire me. Most of them were not shy about it. They did subtle things like throwing my application and resume in the trash while I was still sitting there. Or they would ask if the next candidate was someone they could actually hire while they were still interviewing me. One guy even asked if he could test me sexually as part of a job interview because his needs were probably similar to my old boss's, and he wanted to see if we were a good fit. A few months after that, I packed all my things and moved here. Denton sent my parents a check to give to me when the house sold. What still makes me angry is that they still invite him to Thanksgiving and Christmas dinner every year. They find out if he can come and then invite me if he can't. When my brother-in-law died in a car accident a few years ago, they tried to set Denton up with my damn sister. Damn them. Once I moved here, I tried to find a job in my previous field, but every time they checked my work history, well, let's just say opportunities weren't knocking at my door. After almost a year, I had spent most of my savings and realized that I needed to find a job doing whatever. Any job was better than being left without money and returning to my parents' care. Maybe it's not them, I began to realize. Maybe if I had been honest with them from the beginning, things could have ended better. But most of all, I wished I had never met Brian. I started here at the hotel about 7 years ago. I think you know the rest. Dulce looked at me. Why the hell didn't you just move on and get over this guy? She asked. I could tell by her tone that she now realized how hopeless it was. Damn, she said. Honey, you hurt him badly. Men have this pride that just won't let them forget these things. And the more they love you, the worse it is. It's almost like your body becomes their property. So when you think about it as if you had sex with some guy, they see it as a violation of not only your body but theirs as well, and it is perceived as a violation of your marital obligations. Of course, when they do it, it's just random sex, and it doesn't mean anything. Some guys are different, she said. Unfortunately, it looks like you had one of the good ones. Why is that bad? I asked. Because, honey, he probably would never cheat on you, ever. He loved you too much. So when you did it to him, he just couldn't understand it. What you did, under any circumstances, just told him you don't love him the way he loves you and never did. That's a hard blow to any man's ego. So it's hopeless, huh? I asked. Yes, sorry, she said. We just need to find you a new guy, and you need to make sure you don't do this again. Nice guys are rare. You're lucky to find one once. You might have to lower your standards a little. Don't worry about it, I said. So we started talking. I have a bunch of guys to set you up on a date. She stopped when she saw me shaking my head. No, Dulce, that's not what I meant, I said. What I meant was, there's only one guy I want. I need more than just sex. I need love, Dulcie. I need my den. No one else will do it. She sighed and looked at me. Well then, let's start trying to get him back, she said. I thought you said it was hopeless, I sobbed. There's an old Mexican proverb, she began. Oh, not another one, I sighed. She nodded and smiled. I took a long sip of my drink and looked at her. Okay, let's listen. She looked at me tenderly and said, It's never too late to try something stupid. The rest of our meal was rushed as we only had 45 minutes for lunch, and we spent 8 of them driving Dulce's wrecked car to the pizzeria. I felt good, or at least I hoped, for the first time in a long time. When we returned to the hotel, I was about to select another room to clean from the board when one of the guards told me that someone was waiting for me in my office. I turned and went in a different direction. Various thoughts were spinning in my head. Is the waiting person a man or a woman? Damn, I should have asked. It could be anyone. Most likely, it was Bertie. She came to her senses and wanted to ask for her job back or start some kind of showdown. If it was a man, it could be Ernie, who came back for more clarification about his cheating ex. Or it could have been that scoundrel in the morning who came to threaten or harass me. Of course, it could have been Denton coming back to check on me. This thought quickened my steps and, at the same time, weakened my knees. It's strange how even after all this time he evoked the strongest reactions in me. Damn, Denton could always get to me. I noticed that at least half of my maids were gathered outside my office, giggling and smiling like a bunch of schoolgirls. Haven't I had enough problems? I was already expected to replace Bertie or expect other maids to clean her share of rooms. It wouldn't have been as difficult as it seemed because Bertie rarely did her share of the work. I shooed them out of the way and entered my office. It was as if some maternal switch in my brain had simply turned off my olfactory receptors. Sitting there on the chair by my desk was another cow, an old friend, the answer to my problem and my heart's desire, all in 1.5 faces. Anya Smith was a Russian woman who worked here at the hotel for a couple of years. She had long, limp blonde hair and large, naive eyes. Yes, like Bertie, she was a different cow, but she was a special cow. Anya was a big girl and a very hard worker. She was huge. No, I'm underestimating. Titanic breasts, and everything else was appropriate. I have never seen a more diligent worker in my life. I had to hire 2 maids to take her place when she left. She met a guest, Jack Smith, who fell head over heels in love with her. He asked her out several times, and we all thought he was just playing with her to get into her huge bra. We all thought he was just another creep, and he'd eventually get his way, and she'd be left with only lousy memories. Oh, how surprised we were when she told us that they were going to get married. About a year after their wedding, Anya had to quit her job because she became pregnant. But here she is again, and brought a child with her. He was so small and just the cutest baby you could ever see. For a moment, I thought about hitting Anya on the head and taking it away. I think my maternal clockwork has begun its final countdown to despair. Only 3 things kept me from doing this. The first is the fact that there were too many witnesses. Second, and most importantly, if I had a child, I would really want it to be mine, and Dana's child. And last but not least, Anya is a real huge cow. She could probably hurt me if I tried. Here she is, cherishing her little bundle of happiness and passing it on to me. Why the hell does she call me his Aunt Blanche? That's it. My heart just melted. Blanche, I'm ready to go back to work if possible, Anya said. Great, I replied. This morning I fired 1 person. You can start tomorrow. The afternoon didn't help me come up with a plan, but it did give me another reason why I needed my husband back. What did you look like before? Dulcie asked when we left work. I thought about this as we walked through the hotel and into the lobby. Well, my hair was shorter and cut differently, I said. I think that even though I'm older now, I'm in better shape than I was then. Probably because I eat less and burn off a lot of extra energy doing these exercises every damn night. Okay, that's the first one, she said. We need to go and cut our hair the way you wore your hair before. No way, I said. I think it will be a mistake. I don't want him to remember me as I was. I don't want him to remember and see me as the slut I've become. I want him to see me as an older, mature woman who truly regrets the mistakes she's made. I want him to see that I am different from that woman and that if he gives me another chance, I will cherish every second we spend together for the rest of our lives. I don't want to put pressure on him, but I'll probably start by being brutally honest with him. Dulce's eyes widened. I was sure it was because she wasn't used to hearing me talk about my deepest feelings so openly, but damn. She was my best friend. If I couldn't vent to her, who else would? I would tell Dan, I really screwed up last time, but I would never do it again. Everything we wanted to achieve and have together, I still want. And Denton, I still want it with you. I would look him straight in the eye and tell him that in order for us to have some of these things, he needed to get a grip and impregnate me immediately because neither of us are getting any younger. I would tell him that we, or at least I, probably need a little practice because I haven't been with anyone since he left me. Dulce closed her eyes and looked at the floor. You're right, Dulcie, I said. That would be the worst thing you could say to him. Maybe I could do it with a song like that damn chair song. I should have just walked up to him and said, "Denton, if I could turn back time, if I could find a way, I would undo all these things that hurt you and you would stay. If I could reach the stars, I would give them all to you, and you would love me like before. If I could turn back time." Oh, who am I kidding? My ass is too big to run around the ship in thongs and black stockings. I noticed that Dulce was clearly shaking and making strange movements with her head, as if something was wrong. "What the hell is wrong with you, Dulce?" I asked her before continuing my monologue. "I understood. I need to get him a card. Does Hallmark have a card that says, 'Denton, I screwed up once, but I still love you. I've never loved anyone but you, and I'm willing to do anything for another chance'?" Dulce sank into a chair and just shook her head. "You know, Dulce, what's the worst thing about all of this?" I asked. She shook her head and didn't look me in the eyes. "The worst thing is that I can stand here and say all this to you, but I will never be able to say a word to him. This is how the man I love most will probably live out the rest of his life, perhaps finding another woman who loves him half as much as I do. This is the worst, Dulce. I'll never be able to tell him." "You already said so," she said quietly. "What do you mean?" I asked loudly. "I mean, he was behind you this whole time," she said. I turned around very slowly. My neck moved only a fraction of an inch per second. I prayed with all my being that Dulce was just playing a prank on me. I moved so slowly, my eyes were drawn to a pair of men's shoes. Then I followed them up until they became legs, then a torso, and finally a face. And yes, it was Denton's face, the face I have loved most of my life. The same face I still wanted to wake up to every morning and kiss. My face changed at least 43 shades of red in a second. The room became so hot that I could hardly breathe. My brain refused to work. It was as if I had suffered a stroke. My heart stopped beating. Blood stopped circulating through the arteries and veins. If this had been one of those classic cartoons I watched as a kid, like the Flintstones, I would have shrunk to just a few inches tall and escaped through one of the cracks in the floor. Unfortunately, this was real life, and my embarrassment was so complete that I wanted to die. I did what any normal woman in her place would do. I got out of there. In less than an instant, I was gone. I left both Denton and Dulce standing there, confused. I didn't care what they would do or say to each other. My only goal was to end in shame by removing myself from the situation as quickly as possible. Thankfully, God cares about little children and fools, because even Mario Andretti couldn't catch me on the way home. But under God's protection, I didn't die or go to jail. So in a moment, I was in my lousy apartment. I sat in the dark, wearing an oversized sweatshirt and nothing else. I pulled my knees up and drank a large cup of Lipton tea, waiting for the tears to start falling. What is it about him that doesn't allow me to let him go? I knew I had screwed up. I knew that, despite the circumstances, everything was my fault. All responsibility for what happened lay with me. I came to this realization many years ago. Bryant could be a jerk. He encouraged me to drink, and over time, he gradually drew me into something I should never have allowed myself to do. But it was still my fault. The first time I got drunk and ended up in bed with him, I should have quit. I had to tell Denton what happened, how it happened, and ask for his forgiveness. But I was too proud. I also allowed Bryant to convince me with all this nonsense about how I should act. I really tried all this nonsense about being strong. Yes, I was strong, too strong to say I was sorry, or so I thought. But in reality, I was stupid. Denton was strong. He was so strong that he just stuck to his beliefs and left me behind. And along the way, he destroyed Bryant and even the law firm. After investigating my connection with Bryant, the law firm was found guilty of criminal neglect in supervising the conduct of its associates. Nothing more. But whispers and rumors of inappropriate behavior damaged the firm's reputation, and over the next couple of years, increasingly talented lawyers moved on to other firms. It was as if they were standing next to someone relieving themselves, and they didn't want to get splashed. The company eventually closed. Last I heard, Bryant was divorced and living in an even crappier apartment than mine. His wife was beautiful. much more beautiful than I am or ever will be. She was one of those high society ladies she wasted no time in getting involved with and marrying another lawyer. Bryant's kids now call another man daddy while he toils for minimum wage at 7-Eleven. His own father blames him for destroying the firm and severely cutting his pension funds. That bastard deserves everything that happened to him. And me too. In a way, I wish Denton would find someone else and move on with his life. He deserves to be happy more than anyone else in this drama. I'm glad he didn't take my parents' intrigues seriously and didn't connect his life with my damn sister. It would be too terrible. I think I would have to kill her. I fell asleep on the couch thinking about how to kill my own sister and other happy thoughts. The next morning I woke up early and came to work early too. I thought that I might need some extra time to get Anya settled. There was no need to worry. She fit back in as if she had never left. I carefully avoided the hotel's public areas. I even pushed my cart up and down the back stairs. Several of my girls told me that Denton was only in town for some kind of conference. He now owned his own business and usually sent someone else to the conference every year, but this year the guy's wife got pregnant, so Denton had to come himself. Okay, I'm sure everyone knows what I was thinking, and you're right. I thought, damn, everyone is getting pregnant except me. Just as I was about to drown my sorrows in a strong glass of apple juice, I heard a voice from behind me. Come on, Dumbass. We need to go to the cafeteria now. I turned around and saw Dulcie. She was still my best friend despite all my awkward behavior. Hi, Dulcie. I smiled. Sorry about yesterday, I just had to go. Just had. She nodded and smiled back. This again is about the very thing that makes best friends like that. Her smile told me that she understood everything. Blanche, I'll have to give up the old Mexican proverbs, she winked. You're taking them too literally. Okay, I said. Kick me when I'm on the ground. I deserve it. No, she smiled. What you really deserve is to know what happened after you left yesterday. And you really deserve to get this guy back. He's a really good guy, Blanche, but we don't have time to talk now. My private network of spies, also called the rest of the maids, told me that he usually has breakfast soon. Ooh, let's go, I said. Perhaps by spying on our prey in the wild, we can gain insight into tactics we could use to catch this elusive beast. I thought I sounded like that Brit on those wildlife shows. Why the hell do you say that? She asked. Damn, I can't take you anywhere. We hurried down the back stairs and emerged near the dining room. Denton sat alone by the door. He probably just wanted a light breakfast before heading off to his conference or something. Lupe, one of the waitresses, was serving him. She used all her tricks. She smiled at him with her dazzling smile. The darkness of her skin against the whiteness of her teeth made her smile even brighter. She leaned on him and tried to touch him every chance she got. I heard a growl and didn't realize it was me until Dulce slapped me on the back. Sorry, Dulce, I said. She makes me angry. Blanche, she doesn't know that you're in love with him and he's really cute for an older man. It's also understandable that you're jealous, but just attack her, don't fire her. She's got 3 kids and a lazy hillbilly boyfriend to support. What do you mean? I asked. Oh, that's all they talk about at the hotel that you fired poor Bertie, Dulce grinned. I didn't even bother responding to her comment. I watched, growing even angrier, as Lupe returned from the kitchen with Dan's coffee and what appeared to be cinnamon and some kind of breakfast meat. It also had sliced fruit. But what made me angry was that the little bitch unbuttoned her blouse 2 more buttons. Of course, she would have to unbutton the top down to her waist for him to see anything. Lupe's sagging breasts could have been covered with one of those tiny band-aids they use for shaving cuts. First Bertie, and now this Lupe thing. I started to wonder if everyone in the small breast club was trying to gang up on me and ruin my life. Okay, she wants it, Dulce said. If you don't punish this little bitch, I will. Shh, Dulce, look, I said. Lupe took a pen from the order pad and wrote something on it. She smiled at Denton, folded it, and put it in his breast pocket. Denton smiled back and I felt the heat. Lupa probably didn't have long to live. But then, as she turned to leave, swinging her hips with such an amplitude that I was sure she would need both joints replaced before she was 30, Denton surprised me again. He took the folded note out of his pocket and, without even looking at it, tossed it into the pot of flowers on the table next to him. Seeing what he did, I felt another change in temperature within me. I felt cold, especially in the heart area and between my legs. "I told you he was a good guy," Dulce hissed. "He must have a built-in slut detector." "Why does he always look up?" she asked. "How the hell would I know?" I hissed. "We were separated for 8 years. A little later, Denton called Lupe again. He paid the bill and apparently left her a good tip. She went so far as to pat his breast pocket, reminding him of her little note. He pointed up and they exchanged a few words, and then he left. As soon as Denton left the room, I grabbed Dulce's hand and pulled her into the dining room. We immediately grabbed Lupe and shoved her into the kitchen away from the guests. Luckily, Dulce was smart enough to step between Lupe and me. "What the hell were you doing?" I screamed. "And why is your uniform unbuttoned?" My face was so contorted that it wouldn't have surprised anyone if my next sentence had been, "Is that the Twisted Sister badge on your uniform?" Dulce, who was naturally the voice of reason, tried to defuse the situation. "Lupe, the man you were just trying to flash with your 2 tiny tits is Blanche's husband." Lupe jumped back and seemed devastated. "I didn't know," she said. "Sorry, please don't fire me." Damn, I thought. I worked in this pit for 7 damn years. In all that time, I had fired 1 person, and now everyone I met thought I was going to fire him. Lupe was a shining example of contrasts. Her eyes were bottomless pits of sadness, written so deeply that her children were probably sad at that moment. I actually felt sorry for the way I treated her until I noticed that she was still smiling. At that moment, I hated her. I hated her and her damn dentist so much that I just wanted to knock those damn snow-white teeth out of her mouth. "What did he tell you?" Dulce asked, ruining the moment and possibly saving Lupe's dental health. "He was asking about those decorations on the ceiling," she said, smiling. "He said he wanted to have a few of these to decorate his garage." Dulce grabbed my arm and pulled me out of the kitchen while I was still glaring at Lupe. "Button up your damn blouse," I shouted as I walked away. "Blanche, here it is," Dulce exclaimed in a whisper. "What is this?" I asked. "This is your first chance to do something to win him back," she said. "The dining room closes when the restaurant's open, right?" I nodded. "Well, we'll be back here for lunch," she said with a crazy smile. "But Dulce, they don't serve lunch in the cafeteria," I said. "Just be here and get the damn ladder," she hissed. "Is this another one of those Mexican proverbs?" I asked. "Well, no," she said. "Okay, it's actually the same one. But I can't explain it to you because you'll ruin everything." That morning I cleaned 3 rooms and resolved 2 conflicts among the maids. Both conflicts were related to Anya. In the first case, Anya came to me with a complaint that at least 3 of my 12 maids were having sex with guests. She thought it was disgraceful and thought they should be fired immediately. I had to sit and talk with Anya. I tried to explain to her the Paul McCartney principle. I told her it's live and let live as long as they don't hurt you. Once they piss you off, you switch to live and let die. She moved on to nuclear war too early. "But you haven't fired anyone yet today," she said. An hour later, 4 maids herded me into the room I was trying to clean. These 4 maids were not among those who were having fun with the guests. They wanted to complain about Anya. The maids, including myself, all received a small base salary and earned more money depending on the number of rooms they cleaned. Anya cleaned almost twice as many rooms as any other maid in the team. They were worried that their bonuses might not be as big as before. I tried again to explain Paul McCartney's principle. He seemed well suited to both situations. Leslie, one of the more outspoken members of the group, told me to put Anya at the top of my list of people to fire that day. Finally, it was lunchtime. I asked one of the workers to lend me a ladder. He brought it to my dining room and agreed to pick it up later. He had her out of there long before the dining room opened for late and early morning service. "So, what are we doing here?" "The cafeteria staff left hours ago," Dulce said. "They work 10 hours from midnight to 10 in the morning." "I know that, but thanks for the information. Sally is on schedule," I said. "They work when restaurants are closed. That still doesn't explain why I'm spending my damn lunch hour here. We're going to steal some jewelry, she said. I looked up. Remember the song, she said. I smiled and nodded my head, but I thought about how desperate I must have seemed. Here's Denton worrying about how to decorate his damn garage. For what? To impress your damn car? It's like the Mustang cares about what's in the garage. The only person who thought his machine could see or think or have any feelings was Denton. Okay, maybe it's him and all these other people who are passionate about Mustangs. So here I was, climbing the stairs of almost 40 years old, heartbroken, in a perhaps futile attempt to show him in a better light. I needed help, and I didn't talk about Dulce holding the ladder. 38 minutes later, panting and covered in dust, we had shot 5 of them. We did this according to a plan so that no one would notice their absence, as if it would be important to anyone. In addition, we only took star-shaped ones. I used my key to go into Denton's room to clean and left them on his bed. I was sure he would notice them right away because his room was as neat as before. I went through different scenarios in my head about how he would react to my gift. In some cases, he reacted badly, for example, calling the reception with complaints. In others, he called and tried to fire me. There were also scenarios where he either didn't notice or pretended not to notice and just left them there. My favorites, of course, were the ones where he came to me and thanked me. He even took me out to dinner and took me home in one of them. Of course, my depressed mind was even able to distort this scenario. After we had sex, Denton gave me $3 and called me a taxi. Of course, none of this happened because Denton was actually at his conference late into the night, long after I had gone home, so I didn't even see him. And naturally, the next morning, he did not go to the dining room for breakfast. Dulce and I went out for lunch with Anya. We took Anya with us so that she wouldn't clean a single damn room during her lunch hour. I had to talk to her. Anyway, we still had a few minutes left, so Dulce and I sat on the bench while Anya stood in front of us, facing us, talking about her baby. I think Dulce had reached her limit on the amount of cute baby things she could handle, so she changed the subject. She asked me what happened with the jewelry and if I had heard anything from Denton. I didn't hear, and it upset me so much that I exploded again. He probably didn't like them, I said sharply. Or maybe he liked them, but then he realized they were from me, so he just threw them away. Blanche, I never told you this, Dulce said, but that day, after your speech, he smiled. He was probably laughing at me, I said. No, honey, she said. It was not like that at all. It was a really sweet smile. Do you remember what he told Claudine about how he hadn't had, 8 years? I think he feels the same for you as you feel for him. I think it will be much easier than you think. We just need to find a way to get you guys together to talk. Then why hasn't he tried to find me yet? I asked. Dulce smiled at me stupidly. I started crying, and Dulce, in best friend mode, hugged me. Dulce, I know it was my fault. I deserved everything that happened to me after I did it. I've lost everything, Dulce. I lost my home, I lost my job, and I lost my career. I lost my family. My parents still haven't forgiven me, and my damn sister looks down on me every time I see her. But most of all, Dulce, I lost Denton. This is what hurts me the most. I know you keep telling me to move on and forget about it, but I can't. He's the only one I want. Anya was now gesticulating wildly and waving her arms, while Dulce and I hugged each other. Perhaps Anya had some kind of Puritan prejudice. What, Anya? I asked sharply. I think you should get a Q-tip, she said, and clean your ears so you can hear people when they talk to you. I tried to make you turn around. When I turned around, Denton was standing there again. This time I didn't blush, but all the blood left my head and I turned white as a sheet. This time he really looked unhappy. Unlike last time, when only Dulce was there, he didn't smile. Sorry, he said. I tried to find you to thank you for the stars you left on my bed. I guessed it was you from your speech about the song and everything else. But, you don't seem to be in the mood to talk, so I'll leave you alone. He shook his head and walked away. Who was that? Asked Anya. "Oh my God, Blanche," Dulce said. "You talk too much. Can you not ruin anything? He liked the stars. He even understood what we were trying to do. It was really good. If you hadn't done another one of your little monologues, this might have worked. You could possibly get him back. Damn, you don't have to share every damn thought out loud in public. Most people would learn after the first time. Damn, now I have to come up with another plan." Unfortunately, there was no time for another plan. We learned from one of the women at the reception that today was the last day of the conference. Denton was scheduled to leave early the next morning. Dulce came back and told me that she regretted her outburst earlier. She was upset because the whole plan with the stars was perfect. She was mostly upset with me because she wanted me to be happy, and she felt that without Denton in my life, I probably never would be. "Yes, when did you realize that?" I asked, trying to look away my tears. "When that cute worker was running around the building carrying ladders and shit for you and you didn't even notice him," she said. "It was a bad sign because the poor guy kept crashing into walls trying to see parts of your body and he didn't even get into your consciousness. That told me you have a single-track mind and there's only one train on this track." "Honey," she said as we approached my car, "life is not fair. Sometimes, without trying, we stumble upon things that we simply haven't earned and probably don't deserve. Other times we pine for that tiny piece of happiness and it seems out of reach, no matter how worthy we may be. You won the lottery on your first try, but as you already admitted, it was your fault that you blew it. We have to look at this realistically. Perhaps this was your only chance at a fairy tale. But Blanche, not every woman can be Cinderella. Not all of us marry a prince. Hell, we both know I married a frog. But damn, he's my frog and he loves me. He may not be as attractive and perfect as you think Denton is, but he will be there for me, doing the best he can, no matter how big my ass gets. That should say something. So think about that cute worker, okay?" "Dulce, I love you," I said. "I know that you only want my happiness. But if I got involved with one of the workers, or someone I'd meet tomorrow, or President Obama, or George freaking Clooney, I'd still spend the rest of my life pretending he was Denton. I know Denton isn't perfect, but he's perfect for me, so I don't need anyone else." "Hey, it's not over yet," she said. "We just have to be ready the next time he comes to a conference. So we'll start planning tomorrow, and the next time he comes to town, we'll conquer him." I smiled at her as I left. I didn't say anything because I knew my voice would shake and I'd start crying before I got home. To my surprise, when I arrived home, I put on my huge, comfy sweater, grabbed a cup of tea, and realized that Dulce was right. She gave me 2 chances to get Denton back, and I ruined it with my big mouth. In fact, my big mouth was a big part of why I lost Denton. Denton was willing to forgive me from the very beginning, until I let Bryant get into my head and say all the terrible things that finally split us apart. When we were married, Denton and I never talked about our problems. I know this sounds terrible. Today, because all the experts like Oprah and Dr. Phil are always talking about how couples should discuss their problems, Denton and I have never done this. When something happened, we just went to bed and made love. And the next morning, there were no more problems. He simply said, "Honey, I love you. Let's try to do it your way." How could I forget this? Even now, I still realized how stupid I had been and what an ass Bryant was. I fell asleep knowing that my world would be a lot darker tomorrow. I woke up wondering why my alarm didn't go off. I looked at the clock on my cable box because I fell asleep on the damn couch again. Why do I even have a bed? The clock showed me why the alarm didn't ring. It was only 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't know why I did it, but I got up and took a shower. I put on my clothes and applied some perfume to a few places. I got into the car and drove to work. All the night workers looked at me when I entered. My maids who worked at night were very few. I heard whispers as I walked through the corridors towards my office. "She's come to fire someone," the voice said. Long before I reached my office, I stepped into the elevator. My feet seemed to know where I was going, even if I didn't. I used my key card and quietly entered the darkened room. When I pulled my sweater over my head, it got tangled in my hair. It took me a few moments to free him, and I nearly fell, but luckily I could still hear Denton's rhythmic breathing. I pulled down my pants. I threw my bra on a pile of clothes on the floor. I carefully stepped towards the bed. I had a strange thought as I cautiously approached the bed. Wouldn't it be ironic if I walked into the wrong room getting ready to have sex with a stranger? The guy would wake up and start complaining or asking who I was. I would run into the hallway to get away from him and run into Denton, who had just arrived. But this time, that didn't happen. I saw his face in the moonlight and almost went limp. I threw back the sheet and lay down on him. His arms moved and hugged me. I realized that it was just a reflex. His eyes flew open and he began to wake up as I began peppering his jaw with hundreds of little kisses. As my lips reached his neck, I felt the strange combination of hardness and softness that was his erection pressing against my stomach. "What?" he said, as his brain turned on and pushed the sleep away from his mind. "Shh, Dan," I said. "Do not think about it. It shouldn't mean anything. But I can't wait another 8 years before—" "That's too long, Dan." It looked like Dan was playing sports. He turned me onto my back with very little force. I resisted because I needed to kiss him, but he did not agree. "Maybe we'll try that next time," he said. "Should I take a little nap first? Remember my luck?" I heard two things at the same time. The first was a loud snort of contempt and someone saying, "Everything is clear now. I thought she was better than this. No wonder she didn't care if others did it." The second was a bunch of giggles and a voice that clearly belonged to Dulcie saying, "Yay, someone finally got it." My eyes quickly opened and I noticed that it was light outside. I looked around the room and quickly realized what was about to happen. Anya came in to clean the room and found me. She called Dulce to help get me out of there. The two had different goals. Dulce was there as my best friend trying to watch my back. Anya just wanted to clean the room. She looked at me as if she could barely stand me. Denton, of course, had already left. "He left at 6 this morning. He's already gone," Dulce grinned. "What the hell did he do to you? I would ask what happened to you, but I already know. Damn it, Blanche, put some clothes on so I can get you out of here." After I got dressed in the same clothes I wore the night before, I walked out of the bathroom where Anya was waiting to clean up. She looked at me and shook her head. "I'm sorry, Blanche," she said. "I didn't know that he was your husband. How did you survive for so long without—" We quickly left the hotel. Dulcie asked a lot of questions at first. "How did you even end up in bed with him? Are you back together? Has he forgiven you? What happened?" Once she realized that I had no answers to her questions, her mood changed. "So you didn't even talk?" she asked. "You just showed up at his hotel room in the middle of the night and let him have sex with you until you dropped? No questions asked?" I nodded. "Well, apparently that's all," she said. "When should I arrange a date for you with a worker? Now that you've gotten over your ex, you're going to need sex pretty regularly." I looked at her strangely. "Don't look at me like that, Blanche. Be realistic," she said. "You didn't even talk. If he wanted some kind of relationship with you, he would have told you. What you had is over. What you had last night was great, but it's like old shoes to him. They are easy to put on and comfortable. But you don't want anyone to see you in them, so last night you asked him for sex. He took advantage of this. Today, he returned to his life. The story is over. The end of the film." The more I thought about it, the more depressed I became. Until we reached my house, I cried like never before. "That bastard," Dulcie said, "and I thought he was something special." "It's my fault, Dulcie," I said. "He was trying to tell me something when I went into his room, but I just started kissing him and told him it didn't mean anything." I said it in words, but my heart was breaking. The Denton I knew and loved would never do this to me. After Dulce returned to work, I went over the events over and over in my head. I actually told her the truth. It was my fault. I was still shocked by Denton's actions, but I simply offered myself to him without any conditions. All he did was take what I offered. Denton has changed. This is also my fault. The change in him was probably at least partly due to what I did to him. I needed to face other things as well. I was at a very dangerous time in my cycle, and I didn't force him to wear a condom. It's entirely possible that I could get pregnant. For some reason, I wasn't upset. I took a few days off and thought about it even more. Denton actually did me a favor. He gave me another wonderful memory and maybe even a baby. This was much more than I deserved after what I did to him. 3 days later, when I was driving to work, I stopped at the store. When I reached into my purse, I found a card. I looked at the card and dropped my purse and soda bottle onto the floor, where it shattered, splashing everywhere. I quickly ran out of the store. I called my boss Steve and told him I needed a few more days off. "Is this some kind of woman thing?" he asked. "Probably," I answered uncertainly. "Okay," he said. I drove like a man possessed. Perhaps I had it all wrong, but I couldn't afford to risk it. I turned onto a street in a very pleasant suburb. The house was beautiful. It was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I sat on the porch and waited. Suddenly, my brain started working again. There was also a phone number. I should have called first. How the hell was I supposed to know that he actually wanted me to call? He could have just left me a card out of guilt. Men always say they will call after sex, but most of them don't. Most of the time, they just leave you a number, and when you call, they become vague and defensive. I overestimated the situation. Denton didn't say he wanted to see me, and in the 3 days since we had sex, he hasn't called me. What the hell made me come this far? I definitely had a glitch. I needed to get out of here quickly before he showed up, and I would lose any chance of reconnecting with him. I definitely overestimated the situation. I still thought about it the way I did when we were married. Denton used to leave notes in my purse because otherwise I would forget about them. If he left them on the fridge or table, I rarely noticed them, so he started putting them in my purse. Oh, damn, I thought. I heard the roar of the overworked V8 even as I stood up. The car pulled into the driveway, blocking any chance for me to leave with dignity. Denton got out of the car. He looked up and saw me. I was hoping for a smile or a confused look on his face. I received neither one nor the other. He was clearly angry. I ruined everything again. Denton dropped his briefcase on the ground and walked toward me. The fire in his eyes must have been the same as when he took me so passionately that night. Only this time, he was clearly upset that I had blatantly intruded into his life. What right did I have to invade his life so suddenly? I wondered when he approached me if he would be kind enough to ask why I was here, or would he just spit out something nasty like, "What the hell are you doing here? Get out of here. What else do you need?" Holy God, what if I'm really pregnant? He'd think I was planning this to catch him. I just needed to politely leave here. As he approached me, I felt him again and wanted him so badly. But he was still angry. I closed my eyes as he sighed to speak. Oh God. He raised his hands. I couldn't believe that Denton, my Denton, was going to hit me. "What took you so long?" he asked. "I haven't been able to concentrate on anything for the past 3 days. I tried to call you at work because I don't know your phone number. I was constantly told that you had a bad experience and took a few days off. That big Mexican woman was especially rude to me. She hung up on me 4 times yesterday. I think she doesn't love me. Then I thought that maybe I did something stupid. I was confused because, from all your strange monologues, I felt that you missed me as much as I missed you. I thought maybe you wanted to try again just like me." I just couldn't hold back my tears, realizing what he was saying. "Where is all your stuff?" he asked. "Screw things," I said. "Do you really want me here with you?" "More than anything," he said, smiling. At that moment, I swear, he was ready to kiss me in front of all his neighbors, and I was ready for this, but at that moment, my phone rang. "Oh, hi, Mom," I said. I was surprised. She hasn't called me for months. "Yeah, I guess I can come for Thanksgiving, Mom," I said. "Will Doris be there?" Then a really evil thought popped into my head as Denton took my hand and started leading me inside the house. "Mom, can I bring someone with me?"